Tension today in Senate over police budget. A lot of argument and disagreement before the budget conversations could continue. And Governors Forum today have now given their nod to the President Bola Tinubu tax reform bill. Tonight we'll be getting more insight into the new position of the Nigerian Governors Forum. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloe in Abuja. Tonight, some of the breaking news that have come in a few minutes ago in the nation. One of perhaps the biggest story anyone could think of is about the tax reforms bill. It does look now that there is an alignment with the Nigerian Governors Forum. They met with the Presidential Tax Committee headed by Taiwo Yedele and some others who are within that sector. And there seems to be some agreement going forward. We'll be getting insight on what this means and perhaps the way forward. Some things that we do know. They've agreed now on a sharing formula for the VAT, and we'll be getting to know what this means and the implications right here on the program. So stick around with me, everyone. But of course, I'm going to be showing you what happened today in the Senate in relation to the Inspector General of Police presentation of the 2025 budget. But before we get into all of that, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Oil, Mr. Heineken Lokwobiri, says it is critical for stakeholders in the petroleum industry to come together regularly to discuss challenges in the sector to ensure that well-informed steps are taken to address the problems bedeviling the sector. Speaking after the inaugural meeting of the Petroleum Industry Stakeholders Forum in Abuja, Mr. Lokwobiri revealed that several issues regarding industry regulations, petroleum product pricing, and energy security for the economic growth of the country were discussed.
This sector also has its own peculiar challenges, but what we want to do is to see how we can bring everybody together. Part of the challenges we have, when we came on board, was to see how we can ramp up production. We're already doing that. We're not where we want to be, but we're already getting there.
President of the Nigerian Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has expressed confidence in the 2025 appropriation bill, emphasizing its capacity to tackle Nigeria's security challenges and foster economic growth. Delivering a keynote address at the Senate Committee on Appropriations' one-day public hearing and interactive session on the budget, Mr. Akpabio underscores the importance of a realistic and well-invested budget. He assures that the 10th National Assembly is resolute in delivering a realistic budget where every naira appropriated is well invested. The Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, says Southeast Governors Forum is solidly behind the new President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, John Azuta Mbata, as he drives the ship of the Apex Igbo Social Cultural Group for the next 4 years. Governor Uzodinma disclosed this when he received the new President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Senator John Azuta Mbata, at the Government House in Owerri.
So we bring our brothers and speak one language and solve our problem. There is nothing called problem in this place we cannot solve ourselves.
Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State has announced the establishment of a system to regularly review the performance of his commissioners. He stated the commissioners will be held accountable for failing to meet expectations. The governor emphasized that if the performance of any commissioner falls short, he will not hesitate to reshuffle his cabinet. He urged them to work diligently as they will be closely monitored and sanctioned when necessary. The People's Democratic Party Ondo State chapter has withdrawn from participating in the January 18, 2025 local government elections organized by the Ondo State Independent Electoral Commission. The statement issued and made available to journalists by the Director of Media and Publicity of the party in the state, Mr. Leye Igbabo, says the party's decision came after a consultation with its legal team and the National Secretary of the party.
And there you have it, your political roundup stories. Let me take you to the Senate, where there was a heated exchange in the National Assembly today. And it was about the budget of the Nigerian police force. And the presentation held today, you know, there's been the defense of the budget of the different MDAs and agencies of government. So tensions rose when two lawmakers raised concerns that the IGP's presentation did not align with the documents they had received. The committee chairman's attempt to allow the IGP to continue while the issue was resolved met strong resistance, leading to a heated shouting session. The dispute escalated, prompting a senator to stage a walkout. Order was eventually restored, and the IGP resumed his presentation, reiterating his long-standing call for the NPF to be removed from the restrictive envelope budget system. Let me allow you to see what happened for yourself today and what played out.
Noted. Provide targeted funding.
Observation, point of order, Mr. Chairman.
We don't have a copy. Then I will leave. I will leave a copy. What are we reading now? What are we doing? That we are acting in the right.
Mr. Chairman.
If the Inspector General of Police is reading an abridged version of his speech, it is born out of our parliamentary procedures through a standing motion, through a motion move, through in this sitting, and members unanimously agree that the Inspector General of Police should read an abridged, should summarize an abridged version. So I think I have the floor. I have the floor. We cannot act. We cannot be kids here. We must be recognized to speak. What we are displaying is what Nigerian does not even want. As a member of the House of Representatives, there is a procedure for you to be recognized to speak, not to be interjecting unnecessarily. That is one. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, the procedures of sitting, he have made presentation regarding to 2024, and it is embedded in the speech circulated to us for those of us that came here on time.
All right, that was somehow an abridged version of what played out today, but eventually the IGP got to present his case and his budget. And one of the things that he was proposing is that the police should be exempted from the envelope budget system in Nigeria. So there are a lot of budget defense that happened today, which of course will be reported right here on Channels Television News. So keep a date with our 8 p.m. news and our 10 p.m. flagship news right here on Channels Television. But let me let you know there's been some development today. For those of you who have been following the tax reform bills and some of the conversation back and forth, is perhaps one moment where we saw the different side to the Nigerian society, from the governors to the National Assembly members to the presidency. There seems to be a stiff opposition where it arose, and where the other side thought that they needed to cave in and think about it for a moment. I thought that happened. There were debates. In fact, Channels Television took it upon itself to organize a town hall where everyone had to have their say. And today, there seems to be a way forward. So what we saw today was the Nigerian Governors Forum having a meeting, an engagement with the Presidential Committee, the Special Committee on Tax Reforms, led by Mr. Tayo Oyedele. And after that meeting, there was a decision about 5-point agenda or decision made, which was released in the communique, which was read by some of the governors. And that decision came out of the Governors Forum and the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, which held the meeting which held today. And at that meeting, they reiterated their strong support for the comprehensive reform of the Nigeria's archaic tax laws. Let me allow you to listen a bit. The audio, not perfect, but I've tried to transcribe some of what the governors read from their communique. Take a listen to them.
We held an Governors Forum and the Presidential Tax Reform Committee convened on the 16th of January 2025 to deliberate on critical national issues, including the reform of the Nigerian fiscal policies and tax system, and the rest of the following conclusions.
The forum reiterated its strong support for the comprehensive reform of Nigeria's archaic tax laws. Governors acknowledge the importance of modernizing the tax system to enhance fiscal stability and align with global best practices.
Two, the forum endorsed a value-added tax shall formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources as follows: 50% based on equality, 30% based on collaboration, and 20% based on cooperation.
Number three, members also agreed that there should be no increase in VAT rate from 7.5% currently, or reduction in corporate income tax from the current 30% at this time, to maintain economic stability. The forum advocated the continued exemption of essential goods of agricultural products from VAT so that we can continue to safeguard the welfare of the Nigerian citizens and promote agricultural activity.
Four, the meeting recommended that there should be no cabinet clause for telecom, nursing, and media in the sharing of the government levies in the bills.
Number five, the meeting supports the continuation of the legislative process at the National Assembly that will culminate in the eventual passage of the tax reform bill into law.
The community stand by me, and very much. Thank you very much.
Well, it's an interesting one. And sometimes in our nation, we need to get to the point where we have intellectual conversation that will lead to some progress, and some people having to think about the fact that the nation has to come first above regional political interests. And tonight we'll be having the conversation. What will interest the average Nigerian? What will interest the nation at large, and what benefits is this agreement of today will be? Don't forget, it was in Kaduna State when the governors first came out, the governors and the leaders of the North came out and warned about the issue of the tax reforms. And of course, when the propositions came, there were those who stood and said, look, be careful about the implication of the tax reform proposition. And back and forth, we saw the stance of the governors and those who say this has to be redone at the NEC meeting. It was agreed that the bills had to be taken back, reviewed, and returned, and reworked. But today, there seems to be some agreement. I'll be showing you a breakdown of what they agreed on. But tonight, there is one person. They have put in an intellectual debate on this matter. Well, he has been tagged and given a name as though he has a political interest and he was fighting the governor, the president, Tinubu, and he has said it severally on this program that he's not fighting the governor. A few days ago he appeared. I never knew that this occasion was going to come. I had to plead with him to come back to the program because he's being one voice that has spoken loudly about this tax reform. Like the governor of Nasarawa State is back on the program. Governor Abdullahi Sule, it's good to see you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Would I say congratulations to you?
I think it's a wonderful day for Nigeria. Congratulations to Nigeria. Because at the end of the day, we have achieved something through consultations. First, congratulations to Mr. President for actually guiding us through the process. When we met with Mr. President recently, he said that most of these observations you have, you can actually go ahead and amend them without necessarily withdrawing the bill. You remember the contentious issues that we have as far as the bill is concerned is one on the VAT. Two, on the VAT is combination of so many issues, but one on the VAT. Secondly, the other issue that we have, and we continue to mention it, is the aspect of saying that as far as Naseni, Ted Fund, and the rest of that, we're actually going to be phased out. We express big concerns as far as those areas are concerned. And then we came back about the sharing formula of the VAC itself, where we were saying that about 60% of it was going to be taken and kept aside and be paid based on derivation. And I think that's where the heated debates are. So at the end of the day, I thank God Almighty that they have been, the Tax Reform Committee, chaired by both Taiwo Oyedele and Zach Adedeji, understood our positions based on what Mr. President has said. And I remember appearing on your program, recently when I said, the moment Mr. President said, you can go and make changes, I am perfectly okay, I'm satisfied. We are going to wait for the day of they are going to have the meeting, and we will present them. And today we presented them, and definitely they accepted them, and everybody was relieved. And the people who were calling us names are now to be the ones who will understand whether what we were saying makes sense or not.
So let's clear the air about, first and foremost, before I get deep into the meat of the matter, the politics of it. Would this affect the North negatively?
The way it's presented today, it should affect the North positively. The reason why I'm telling you that, one of the biggest things that the North, all over the North, are fighting for, and that's what we initiated and we were fighting, is a situation where you said you are going to increase VAT from the 7.5% today that is there to 10% this year, in fact starting this month, and then to 12.5%, and then to 15%, which means you are going to double it. We were concerned that by doing that, it was going to actually increase the huge inflation that we have at the moment. The inflation of Nigeria today is about 34%. And what I was explaining earlier today is that this 34% is actually in the states where I lived and worked for, say like Lagos. But if you move to the deep north, it's far more than 34%. It's maybe somewhere around maybe 50% even. So it is the average that they take about, because in the north, we are not so lucky with the planning in the past to have industries, to have people who can work, to have people who can have purchasing power, to have people who can do that. So it will affect them the moment you increase VAT, because prices of items will increase. And so the people cannot afford. So a lot of people will actually go and live without the rice, without the sugar, without all the other things that attract VAT. Today, I'm the happiest person when we presented that and the committee said, if this is what you believe is the right thing, go ahead.
So, I asked you that question because there were those who believe that the interest of the North, there will be, it's going to be jeopardized, that the North is going to feel the brunt of it if it was passed. But as it is right now, and I'm going to show our viewers what you agreed, the new formula that you agree with the tax reform.
Yes.
So now there seems to be the tension that should be calm in the North, that this is in the interest of Nigeria.
Yes, this is done not actually just for the North. It will affect every state that has similar challenges with the North. There are so many other states in the South that have similar challenges in the North. You know, I married from the East. I travel extensively in the East. I was an MD of 2 companies that are all over Nigeria. I moved all over Nigeria.
So you are Wazobia?
Yeah, and I know the situation that we have, you know, in some other parts of the South. You know, some southern states are doing fantastic, but there are so many southern states that are not doing so well, just like the North. You know, so that's why I say it is for Nigeria. It is not really
so because
as
a cake, our tax law, the bodies of laws that we have guiding taxation in Nigeria has been, there were those who also worry that in northern Nigeria, the issue of inheritance is a major concern. Does this agreement today also settle and clear the air about what could become a danger to the principles of inheritance in the North?
No, you see, the aspect of that is that it's already in the existing law. There has been some misinformation about some items of this tax reform bill. As I said, there were 4 bills. But most of the time, people keep looking at the tax bill, you know. There is also the registration bill is part of it. There is also, you know, there are 4 bills in totality, you know. So there is a bill that addresses multiple taxation. There are so many good things about this particular reform, but there are things that affect people negatively. I don't want to say that not only affects people generally negatively, because inflation is everywhere. When there is inflation, high prices, it will affect everybody, you know, and things like that. So when we brought it up, it's just that the northern governors brought the matter up. But the northern governors brought a matter that affects the whole of Nigeria. And I had somebody arguing that, no, it's just second-term governors, you know, it's all crap. It's people who don't understand what is happening. You know, in reality, at that meeting that we had of 19 northern governors, everybody agreed with the position that the northern governors took. So it's not about first time or second time or third time governors or this and that. It's not about that. You know, it's about interests of Nigeria. And I'm happy that today we have been able to arrive at something. So I congratulate Mr. President for that. I congratulate Zag Adedeji for that. I congratulate Oyedele, you know, for that. The reason why I'm congratulating them, for you to put up a position and a debate to be put forward, and for you to accept that, okay, it's a spurious debate, I accept. You know, it's not an easy thing. Not everybody has the capacity to do that.
So this is being seen as though there is a political attack on the Tinubu presidency. This was part of how it was seen, and it was also seen partly as the North versus the South.
No, as a matter of fact, is this debate that was put forward is for the protection of even the presidency. For people like us, you know, if ordinary people begin to feel heavy punch about the economic situation, the president will look bad. You understand? So for some of us who have identified these weaknesses and brought them up, and then we are discussing them, is people who truly love the president. Because if you don't love the president, you say, let it go. And the moment a common man is hit by some of these things, the common man will actually turn around and hate the president for that. So where is the debate about a fight on the president? No, it's an intellectual debate between intellectuals, people who understand what it's all about, and they are the people who debated it, they understood each other, and they have moved on. As I said in one of the meetings, you know, a lot of people who didn't even understand what was happening, they are the people who hijacked the debate, and that's the reason why it was looking like an attack. No, as an APC governor, I cannot attack an APC administration. Forget even the president, even an APC, a senator, I can't attack a senator. I can't attack House of Reps members. I can't attack, you know, so it is not an attack. It's actually an intellectual debate about things that we know that will be detrimental to the country. It will have actually jumped our inflation. And when inflation comes, whether you are northern or you are southern, as long as you buy and pay VAT, it will affect you. So it's not about...
Yeah, so let's go over what... so politically speaking, the position today has given an equilibrium
Correct.
And the presidency, the governors, and the northern elite are on the same page with this position.
Correct.
Is that what it looks like now?
That's what it is. Not that it looks like. That's what it is.
There are 5 points that you agreed on today.
Yes.
Right. And let me show Nigerians what the agreement was based on the communique that was read today. One of it is an agreement on the strong support for the comprehensive reform of Nigeria's archaic tax laws, and agree on the importance of modernizing the tax system to enhance fiscal stability and align with global best practices. So there is a meeting point.
Yeah.
That we need to change the laws.
Yeah, we all agreed that, change is constant. We must continue to look at our laws, and where they are overdue, we reform them. Multiple taxation is one, for instance. You have to change that in order to attract investment. So that one is set. We agree.
You also agreed and endorsed of a revised value-added tax VAT sharing formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources. And I'm going to show our viewers what you agreed on today, and perhaps explain to us the difference and how this has settled the dust. You agree with the Tayo Oyedele committee and Zach Oyedeji's team that there should be a revised VAT sharing formula in this manner. And the figures are now 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population.
Fantastic.
Who gave what? I mean, someone must have given something. And
there has been movement of grounds. You understand? The biggest movement of ground came from the part of the committee and Mr. President. Initially, and that's what some of the governors kept asking. They were fighting because it was like 60% that was going to go on derivation. And we say that one is going to hit. That's, I think, some of the governors saying, why is all the money going to Lagos if you have had that kind of debate? Yeah. It is based on that 60% that was originally suggested. So we now said, no, that is not right. Take 50% of the amount, and now share that 50% equally among the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. That is one. Take 20% of it, share it according to the population, because it is meant for the people. So that one is clear.
The population of its state.
Population of a state.
So you mean that the states like Lagos, Kano, Rivers, they will get some. They will probably get more.
Yeah, they will get more because that's what it means. Because they have more people. Kano will have more people. Therefore, I don't expect at Nasarawa State to receive the same amount of people that will cater for the people of Nasarawa State like Kano. So that one we have to give in. So it's perfectly understood. So but the 50% that is going to be shared right now, I think that's the catch. It's going to be shared equally. Whether you are 30, whether you are 10 times the size of another state, you will get the same amount. And that's a chunk of 50% is going to do that. And let me tell you the good thing that we achieve on that, as far as Mr. President is concerned. The current sharing formula, current one, not the one that is being revised, is 15% that goes to the federal government. Now, we say 15%, only 10% will go to the federal government. 90% will now go to the states and the local government. And it is this 90% that we are now sharing it the way that you are seeing that way. So I think anybody who has moved ground is the federal government that has moved more ground. So we should commend the federal government for moving the ground, and then we are able to do this.
So now, in all of this, our friends are at Agora Policy. It's a think tank, and based on the agreement of today, this is what their own simulation looks like from what I saw on their website and their handles. If you look at it, it does look like states like Lagos and Rivers will bear the brunt. They might be getting less than what that accrues to them presently, or in the old or the proposition made in the bill before today.
Correct.
That's what it looks like now.
Correct. And that's fair. Okay? And I'm telling you now from my own understanding of how VAT is generated, how it is derived, and how it is actually paid back to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. So based on that, majority of these companies that are registered, and I give you a good example, FCT. I had to continue giving an example with Lagos. I give you FCT. Today, FCT is actually, because if you look at it, there are no industries in FCT, right? But FCT is number 3 when it comes to derivation. You know where the derivation is coming from? There are no companies that have big capital in FCT. No. But it's because the road that you are constructing in Lafia, the payment of that road is done at FCT by the government of the Federation. Therefore, FCT gets that but as derivation. The road that you are doing in Akwa Ibom, the FCT is getting that derivation. The road that we are doing in Lagos, let Lagos now be the beneficiary, is now being paid over here. No problem. Nobody is complaining about that. But then you cannot say 60% of that goes to FCT, because if you say that, you are not fair, you know. So the rivers is because of the oil companies. I work in rivers. I work in Port Harcourt. Most of, if you go to One, all the service companies, that's where they are. Every service company, that's where they are. And they pay a lot of VAT. That VAT is going there. So it's even a little bit different from the VAT that is paid here at the federal capital. And it's different from the VAT that is paid in that. But most of the offshore operations that we have, the moment we load it at One, and it goes directly into Bonga, Erha, Agbami, this and that, which is not River State land, but the River State benefits from it. But you know, you cannot debate that, because that's the structure. But when you say now you give them 60%, that's a little
but
bit
this has resolved that issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, for example, and Agora Policy came up with a simulation where they're saying the two, there's a value loss to states like Rivers and Lagos. Rivers and in the old, on the other proposition, Lagos would have gotten about 43 billion based on the past November 2024 projection. But with what you have proposed today and the agreement out today in this formula, Lagos will be getting 20-something million, about 21 billion less. Now, Lagos is at a loss. Rivers is going to would have lost over 16 billion. It would naturally have gotten in the old formula 18.26 billion. But with this new one, it would have gotten 11.77 billion. But there are some states that would have, that with this new formula, states like Katsina would have gotten 2 billion more. States like Zamfara would have gotten 1 billion more. Kebbi would have gotten 1 billion more. Niger would have gotten 2 billion more. Kwara would have gotten about 2 billion more. Nasarawa would have gotten 1 billion more. Plateau will get about 1 billion more. And states like Osun, about 2 billion more. So there is a spread. 34 states of the Federation would have gotten a fair share. But Lagos and Rivers will be at the brunt. They would have lost a whooping. In Lagos, about 20-something billion. In Rivers, about 10 billion plus.
Let me tell you something, Seun. You see, the idea, locally, Nasarawa sits next to Lagos. So I was sitting next to the governor of Lagos, and we were discussing this. Now, you said you are discussing something for national interest. If you are discussing something on national interest, you cannot restrict it to 1 or 2 or 3 states and say that it is national interest. So that's why Mr. President, in his wisdom, say go and check at the areas. And all of us were there when we sat down and discussed that. Now, what you are saying is actually hypothetical, is theoretical. It is not the actual thing. The actual thing will have been, if in the past we are only sharing, say, 300 billion, if now, based on the recommendations that are being made, you are no longer sharing 300 billion, you are sharing 600 billion. So the Lagos you mentioned that is losing 20 billion will still get back its 20 billion through improved revenue. Now, in this same bill, without necessarily increasing the VAT, because we have taken care of the VAT, there is no increase in VAT. Without necessarily increasing the VAT, there are so many other areas, you know, in the free trade zone where Nigeria is being cheated. You know, it's a situation where you tell a company, we are giving you free trade. You are not going to pay taxes. You are not going to pay everything. Go ahead, produce from here, export, and bring back the dollars for the interest of the company. Some of these companies are actually producing and then selling back into Nigeria. You understand? So you lose that tax. This reform has addressed that. So you are going to get some money back. So it is not necessarily that you are losing all the... That's why I say it's theoretical, what you are saying.
Yeah, but it's a simulation to at least give an understanding.
No, that's correct.
If 34 states gained and 2 states loses, not in that simulation, I think the generality of Nigerians will benefit.
Exactly.
But I'm interested in the 4th and the 5th recommendations or agreement that you had today. The 4th agreement on that communique says the recommendation that there should be no terminal clause for TETFund, Naseni, and NITA in the sharing of the development levies in the bills. And we have seen ASU protesting that TETFund should not go. The part that also gets interesting is the 5th one. The governors are supporting the continuation of the legislative process at the National Assembly that will culminate in the eventual passage of the tax reform bills, which for me, this is largely political. That the governors will now tell their lawmakers from the state, go back to the National Assembly and pass it. Is that what it interprets today?
No, let me answer the first one. Let me answer the first one you mentioned before I go to this one. You know, one of our debates also at the Northern Governors Forum is we understand the importance of TETFund. And I have explained to so many people that I personally now see the usefulness of TETFund, usefulness of SUBEP, usefulness. If you go to most of the universities in Nigeria, public universities, both state and federal, nearly 50% of the projects that they have there are done actually by TETFund. So if you say you are going to wipe out TETFund, then of course we have to show concern. So by the debate today that you have said, okay, we are not going to phase them out. Naseni will not be phased out. TETFund will not be phased out. SUBEB will not be phased out. This and that. So now we have supported the position of the ASU and the rest of that. Okay? So, and you know ASU is also federal, so it's not a North and South thing. So I think that is one. Now the other aspect you have mentioned, something like this is a continuous engagement. You know, just because we have done this, it has to be presented to Mr. President. So those who will continue to lobby with Mr. President will go and tell him, Mr. President, we have sat down like you instructed, and we have done that. And this is what we have done, we agreed. And most likely Mr. President will say, fine, that's good. But it's also our responsibility to continue the engagement. There is going to be public hearing, whether we like it or not, it's part of the legislation. Then during the public hearing, we'll go again and explain to our people. And before meeting them, like today now, we had an executive session. That's why it was easier to pass this thing. So we will also have executive session with our legislators.
Because some of the lawmakers are threatening that this will not see the light of day. We will stop it. We will not allow it to go. But with what we're saying, because in the political space, the governors are a very strong bloc, and you cannot wish them away. Perhaps that's why the president, someone who also was being a governor for 2 terms, had reason and thought that I cannot wish away the wishes of the governors. Well, I think it's wisdom also and political reasoning that some of these engagement and political positions should have been made before now. But Governor Sule, it's interesting, and I'm actually very, very happy with what Taiwo Yedele and Zach Adedeji and their team have done. They've made Nigerians proud. We've had years upon years of archaic laws, and they've been back and forth about arguments on which way to go. And we've seen the flexibility, the vulnerabilities of Nigeria in all of these conversations. And I think Nigerians need to applaud some of these gentlemen for some of their effort and their resilience, but also to applaud some of you who also have the confidence and the boldness to speak your mind, even when it is not politically expedient. But on the final note tonight, Governor Sule, in the interest of the Nigerian people, what would be the bigger picture out of this agreement today?
I think the bigger picture at the end of the day is to get it passed for the interest of Nigeria in order to attract more investment into Nigeria. Part of the reform is actually the attraction of additional investments into Nigeria. That's why you are eliminating multiple taxation on the first place. You are also going to look at stamp duties. You are also going to look at all the other royalties and the rest of that, and you are addressing them. This will encourage some of these companies that are running away from Nigeria to stay. That's why I say the tax bills are more than just VAT matter. There are so many other issues in it. So if you have not taken time to go through them, you may not understand. So I think this is the best, the first catch that is going to be there for Nigeria. For some of us, you know, like in our own state, in Nasarawa State, we're attracting a lot of investment in the area of mining and agriculture. This is an opportunity for me now to say, you know what, come in. This is going to be good for you. You are not going to go through this. Your registration for taxes is going to be that. You don't have to go to so and so place for that. There is now coordination between the Federal Internal Revenue Service and our state internal revenue services. Part of the bill is to bring that working together. Harmonization. Part of that bill is also addressing about the taxes you are going to do. We are going to give you certain amount there so that you don't have to go and tax other people this.
So, and perhaps, Governor, the political dust will have rested about the opposition against Bola Tinubu's government about issues of burden of taxation and levies. That may be because in the north we are hearing that a lot of opposition against Bola Tinubu government. And you are an APC leader, isn't it? This may have settled the dust a bit, isn't it?
Well, no, definitely it will settle the dust because you see, most of the people in the north have been sold the idea that there are going to be additional taxes. And if you look at most of the debates, people are saying we don't want additional taxes. So we're saying today by this there is no additional taxes. Right. So I think that is the idea, and it also, you know, put to rest people who want to put heads between the president and some other people. Now they can understand that what those other people have done, you know, is actually for the interest of Nigeria. Right. You say 3 states are not going to be benefiting as much, but 34 states are going to be benefiting a lot. So where is the north and the south?
Sule, such a pleasure having. It's very interesting having intellectual conversation with you. It just makes you don't look like a politician when we're having an intellectual conversation. Makes it very easy. Thank you so much.
I'm an accidental politician.
Just like your friend Nasir El-Rufai, who wrote Accidental Civil Servant. Thank you so much, Indy.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
From someone who had a very strong intellectual opposition in the first place, so someone who bought into it. We're getting another perspective to this conversation when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much. When we add a town hall, there are a lot of different voices, those who are in support and those who are against. Tonight, let me bring those who advocated and said, look, it's going to be for the interest of Nigerians. Is Malam Baba Yusuf, who is a trade and investment expert and is also the first substantive MD CEO of the first airport free trade zone in Nigeria. He's a group CEO of Global Investment and Trade Company, GITC. Thank you so much, and it's good to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here, Sule.
Yeah, I thought that Taiwo was going to join us at some point, but I understand that they are having meetings after meetings.
Absolutely.
You were at the town hall.
Absolutely.
And when I called you earlier this evening to say, have you heard the news? And you seem so excited about it. Now, how does this come to you when the governors and the Presidential Tax Reform Committee had come to an agreement? And some people say it was a delicate agreement. How do you describe it?
Thank you very much for having me, Sule. I'm very happy, expectedly so. I'm excited because when, first of all, as a northerner, we came out to speak to the pushback, you know, not necessarily entirely by the northern region, but largely so. Some of our people, including political leaders, you know, were throwing sour grapes and saying, why not? And the position is this: Nigeria needs to move forward in a united and progressive manner. There would be an evolution. We are undergoing an evolution. So when there's a position like this, if you remember at the town hall and in other medias and interventions, what I was saying is we should consult, engage, debate, and negotiate with a view to furthering this very critical reform that we require, that has become antiquated. But the issue I had was for political leaders to throw it away. Don't even talk about it, or we cannot pay salary if this proceeds. I'm happy now that there's a synergy, you know, of objectives. It appears ab initio there was what I call misalignment of objectives and vision. And probably the learning points going forward is for the ruling party to put their house in order, synergize their vision, and then come out and present to the public or to Nigerians what is good for the country to avoid this kind of backlashes. But essentially, it is a milestone for us in this country. It is now a consensus that we need to move forward. And Sharon, what is interesting is, for those that don't know, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is tactically moving us into restructuring. We saw the autonomy for local government secured. We saw the attempt to kill EFCC, ICPC dealt with, and we have seen now the tax reform, which is talking about derivation and production. So we are moving from rent-seeking commission collection to constructive disruption of creating value and innovation. I'm very happy for this.
There are those who will look at the political side to it, that look, if a government and the political party that is backing the government is coming up with an idea, an agenda, which you talked about in your manifesto, and if you're going to put this into the public, you should have some political moves on the ground before you come to the public. Did you think that there was a misstep from the ruling party in the first place?
Absolutely, like I said in my opening remarks, and I have even said it before today, during the heat of that moment, that there should be alignment of objectives. What is alignment of objectives? Between the federal government that is sponsoring this and the state governments, that are required to buy into this, and indeed Nigerians, who are the people that own the mandate. Unless that alignment is secured internally for the ruling party, the kind of missteps that we have seen is bound to happen. Because what happens is you will have suspicion, mutual suspicion, especially for governors that are just coming out from a situation where we have achieved the local government autonomy, to a large extent, and they are seeing those controls being removed from them. Nobody will let control go, Sheung, without negotiation and engagement. So I totally agree with you, and I think it's a learning point, for the ruling party and for Nigerians, and I'm happy that democracy is evolving, because in this case, we also saw pushback from members of the ruling establishment. Yeah. So the what do you call it, the give and take now will undergo what you call debate and negotiation in what? In the interest of the people. Further down the line, we'll talk about why that is very critical and crucial for the ruling party, and this is a chapter for us in the political evolution studies.
And I asked that question because when you there is, for every policy and governance issue, there's always a political, because at the end of the day, it's politics that will make this policy come to life.
Absolutely.
When you go to the national politics with the governors, they have a pushback. The political elite said, no, this cannot go like this. And now there is a realignment. The president met the governors. He told them his mind. They went back and they consulted. They met with the committee, with the policy, those think tank and the intellectuals. They came to the round table. Politics is at the bottom. And those who say, who are those advising the president? Who are the political advisors to the president? They should have done their homework to say, you cannot go to town with this policy without doing the necessary political on-the-ground background work. But as that has been, as the governor of Nasarawa State, there was a major pushback from the northern region of the country. Do you think that the dust is settled, or there are still issues that may be lurking around in the future?
Well, Sheung, like I said earlier, this is a wake-up call to Nigerians generally, but particularly northern Nigeria. There may be issues lurking around. Like you said, you cannot divest policy, especially with issues of tax. Tax is highly politically driven. But going forward, it will also speak to how governance should be looked upon by the people that are holding, crucial offices like governors, including the legislatures. Because what it means is that it has brought about, it has changed the game of policy formulation and policy implementation going forward, that you need to get the buy-in of your internal customers, and that's the political party itself, and reinforce that cohesion, because they are your marketers. Before you even go to the image makers of the party or the administration, the confidence of Abayo Ananuga or others to speak about this will be a reflection of the coordination of selling that policy to the internal customers before you come to the citizens, and even indeed the opposition political parties. And that is the lesson for not just APC today, but maybe going forward. But like I said, this is opening a new vista, Sheung, with regards to the structure of governance.
There was a big dent on the political status of the president in northern Nigeria. And
Absolutely.
the average person on the street in northern
Absolutely.
Nigeria were agitated about this.
Absolutely.
Do you think that this will change anything?
Well, the truth is there has to be a postmortem of this situation if I am sitting within the strategy team of Mr. President, because the truth is, in the last 1 month or so, the big perception issue that this has created for the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I can tell you, is huge. And I can tell you the political juggernauts in the north deliberately did this to create a situation for 2027, because perception is a key ingredient of politics, like you said. So the government needs to go back also to do some face-saving mechanism and provide reassurances. Don't forget, religious leaders came out and taking very fundamental position on this. Those people at the lower strata of society need to get the right feedback by the APC, if anything. And don't forget, there are states that are governed by opposition party, even though the entire governors forum has bought into this. Albeit within that timeline, the critical stakeholders, which are the citizens, may still not get the gist of the matter.
One thing that is at the heart of the conversation, and there are loads and loads of issues, and one person has gone through, scavenged every part of the bill, read all the pages of the four bills, and not only the legalese or the technicalities, but also what the bottom line, the economics of it in the average person's pocket. But let's look at the issue of the derivation, the formula.
Yes.
If we bring back the formula as agreed today, what is your take? Do you think this will work? Do you think this will serve the purpose for which these those who proposed the committee and what they proposed in the first place? Do you think this new formula will work?
Well, you see, when you are undergoing evolution, one of the crucial things to consider in your strategy is the issue of culture. As Peter Drucker said, the leadership guru, culture will have breakfast, will have strategy for breakfast. And to address that cultural issue, you have to systematically and strategically bring this constructive disruption. I call it constructive disruption because you are bringing a whooping, sweeping change. And in trying to do this change management, for now, you have proposed as a committee. What they proposed was a proposal. It's a bill that has to be subjected to negotiation. The representatives of the people at the level of state governors have negotiated this. However we want to look at it, there is a constructive disruption. It's not going to be business as usual. Whether you are taking 10 miles now or 1 mile, it presupposes that they have accepted as governors, that they have proposed a negotiation which has been accepted. So they don't have excuse going forward for that. And I'm very sure that will also redefine, governance going forward for the subnationals. Because now they have made a proposal, it has been accepted. Whether we like it or not, it has changed the paradigm, of the current, framework. But let us also move, because it is always pushing us to the position of tax, or VAT. Don't forget, it's an omnibus bill. It has to also talk about, the reorganization of our revenue collection mechanism, which has a lot of leakages, and pitholes, which will be addressed by this policy. So going forward, if you look at it wholesome, without, microing the issue to the issue of sharing of VAT, which to my mind is still transactional. We have to look at it from a strategic perspective. And I hope the governors also did that in their negotiation so that they don't leave some loopholes that will come and bite them later. Bottom line, you have to start creating value to really make any impact.
If there is any lesson from all of this conversation and this debate, what would that be?
The lesson is, going forward, the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must review its communication strategy in how to engage internally and externally. Policy coherence is very key, and for you to achieve policy coherence, the building blocks of policy formulation includes critical stakeholder engagement, gauging this environment, perception management, expectation management of the people in trying to bring something that will be acceptable to all. But the big lesson point is governance will not be business as usual, like I said. Governors after this will have no excuse with regards to what comes to them. value creation, value elevation, and value protection will be the only way for governors to move forward. Because I was telling people, okay, for those that are saying there shouldn't be reform for tax, what happens if this bill is withdrawn? What are they going to do going forward? Will it change the fortune, for example, of northern Nigeria with regards to how we harness the abundant resources we have, which have not been harnessed up to today? The point is, the future of North or Nigeria will depend on how leaders create value, innovate, and make the necessary impacts, because indeed the political consciousness of Nigerians have changed from 2023, and I'm very sure, as we are seeing it today, the pushbacks will even be more as people understand their rights and the expectations for their leaders, and the perception that leaders will determine on their own how it works is not going to be the case.
Well, I'm very excited in that being in the middle of all of these conversations and the move that Channels Television, for example, made in organizing a town hall, which culminated into a larger conversation, brought a lot of information, education about this matter, and brought a lot of key stakeholders in the mix, and we were able to have somewhat a meeting point and a political way to go forward. And I think to a large extent, if we have intellectual conversation and a progressive way to look at every issue in Nigeria this way, we will move faster than we ever think.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Totally agree with you.
Mr. Baba Yusuf,
thank you
who is the Group CEO of Global Investment and Trade Company, GITC. Thank you so much indeed.
Appreciate it.
Well, Nigeria will be great. I believe if all leaders stand up and get counted. Tawo Yedele and his team, kudos to you. Zach Adedeji, you've got some work to be done on your hands, to be done in the coming days. When this crosses the line, and we cross the Rubicon, it means that we are going to be having a new vista, a new regime in our tax laws. It means something for our people that there is a new dawn. How the government of the day will handle it, it's up to them. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Kimalo. I'll see you next time. God bless Nigeria.